Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our next panel, Driving Change, Exploring Michigan's Treatment Courts.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to what I'm sure will be a dynamic panel discussion about a compelling topic, Michigan treatment courts, or as we in the third branch call them, problem-solving courts. I'm Michigan Supreme Court Justice Kyra Bolden, and I'm honored to serve as the court's liaison to problem-solving courts. But before I go any further, let's first acknowledge the Michigan Association of Treatment Court Professionals, or MATCAP, and the organizers of this year's auto show for giving us the opportunity to spotlight these life-changing programs. So what exactly are problem-solving courts? They are non-traditional court programs that focus on nonviolent offenders whose underlying medical and social issues have contributed to their contact with the criminal justice system. They include drug and sobriety courts, mental health courts, and veterans courts. Problem-solving courts provide treatment and intense supervision to participants as an alternative to incarceration. It's also important to note that the judges who preside over these programs do so on top of their regular court dockets, a labor of love for many of them. The Supreme Court assists trial courts in the management and operations of these programs. Problem-solving courts exemplify how we are working to increase public trust and confidence in the judiciary through collaboration and compassion. At the Michigan Supreme Court, we like to say that these courts not only solve problems, but they also save lives. Every year, we track the progress and highlight the successes in the Michigan's 200+ problem-solving courts. Some notable outcomes. Our data shows a growing need for programs around the state. For instance, Michigan adult drug and sobriety programs grew from 98 in 2018 to 109 in 2022. Also, problem-solving courts help lower recidivism rates year after year, which leads to safer communities. In the last year, graduates of adult drug court programs were more than 3 times less likely to be convicted of a new offense within 3 years of admission to the program. Through these programs, graduates are able to improve their quality of life. For example, nearly 100% of mental health court graduates reported improved mental health after completing a program, and unemployment dropped by 88% among veterans treatment court graduates, which is important to note because sustained employment is a key factor in their success. And before I introduce our esteemed panelists, I just want to share some powerful feedback from our recent graduate in Berrien County Drug Court to the team that helped her. She said, "I just want to thank you all again for being a huge part of my recovery and at the end of the day, helping save my life. Next month, I will have 4 years clean, and I never thought that was possible. And since I've been out, I've maintained my sobriety and achieved a lot of goals I've set for myself. I wouldn't be around for all of this if it wasn't for you. Please continue doing what you all do, helping as many struggling addicts as you can. Tell them, if the girl who couldn't last 48 hours on felony probation can do it, they can too." Thank you all again from the bottom of my heart. That was from one of our graduates. And with that, I will introduce our esteemed panel. We have Judge Karen Khalil, 17th District Veterans Treatment Court presiding judge, Wayne County and MATCAP board member. We have Judge Shannon Holmes, 36th District Courts presiding judge of drug treatment courts, Wayne County and MATCAP board member. And we have Jermaine Atkins, certified peer recovery coach at GrowthWorks Incorporated and MATCAP board member. So thank you all for taking the time to listen. All right, for our first panelist, Judge Khalil, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your role in the drug treatment court.
Thank you. My name is Karen Khalil. I've been a district court judge in Michigan for the last 31 years. And in the last 12 years, it's been my honor to serve as a Veterans Treatment Court judge. We realized back in 2010 that there were many returning Afghan and Iraq veterans who were finding themselves in the criminal justice system because of problems that developed for them during their service to our country. It's with great honor that we work together with a team of very dedicated individuals to treat these heroes and get them the services that they need to put them on the right track to come back to a normal life. And so we were the 4th treatment court, veterans treatment court in the state of Michigan in Redford. We became the hub for many transfer cases in the state back in 2010, starting back in 2010, and I'm sorry, in 2011. And since then, we have had almost 100 graduates in our program, and we've now started a secondary treatment court in our court, which is a hybrid drug and alcohol treatment court. We have a very dedicated staff. We have a very dedicated group of mentors who help our veterans that are in the program. And what does it mean to be in a veterans court? It means that if you've been identified as someone who has served our country and had an honorable discharge, you're eligible to participate in this program where you would then be able to get additional services from the treatment court team and from the Veterans Administration Hospital.
Judge Khalil, thank you so much for your service. We appreciate all that you've done.
Thank you.
Next, we have Jamaine Atkins. Jamaine, please introduce yourself also as an individual who has graduated from a treatment court program. Could you share how the program has impacted your life?
Sure, no problem. First, I'd like to say thank you all very much for having me here today and allowing me to speak. Judge Khalil, definitely want to say thank you to you and the work that you do as a presiding judge of a Veterans Treatment Court, because I am a graduate of a Veterans Treatment Court in Washtenaw County. And it was my experience as a person participating in a Washtenaw County Veterans Treatment Court to find out and get connected to the services that were available to veterans. Because many veterans, when we discharge, not only are we just happy to go, in many cases, we pack our bags and we run as fast as possible. And we're not necessarily informed of the different benefits that we have or the different services that are available that many of us find out that we need. And as a person in long-term recovery myself, I found that I needed a lot of services that were available at the VA, and the court helped connect me to those services. And not only did they connect me to the services at the VA, but they also connected me to a mentorship program, and I was connected to a guy named Dr. Eric Fretz, who was a retired lieutenant commander who volunteered in the Veterans Treatment Court, and he showed me so many ways to grow, and he walked me through the treatment court process, and he did it so well. In fact, I asked him to mentor me in life afterwards, and he agreed. And because of his mentorship and his willingness to continue to volunteer and be a part of veterans' lives in my area, he walked me from being a guy who would register for college courses, get the refund money and just disappear, to someone who was able to graduate summa cum laude from Eastern Michigan University back in 2018. He helped me change from a person who had lots of business ideas and lots of different ways that I wanted to be a part of my community in a productive way, and only having ideas, to someone who was able to open up a successful business of my own in 2018. And now I am the owner of a men's housing company for people who are receiving help for substance use disorder. It's called Any Length Sober Living. We assist men who are getting out of treatment or in the criminal justice system on probation as they seek to walk the path of early recovery. And it was really just a really positive experience, and because of the positive experience I've had, I really just try to give back as much as possible, freely as it was given to me.
Jamaine, thank you so much for sharing your personal story. Judge Holmes, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your role in the treatment court.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shannon Holmes. I serve as the executive presiding judge at 36th District Court for all of our specialty courts. I have been on the bench for the past 12 years, and I must say that this is the most fulfilling assignment that I have had since I've been on the bench. I started off on a felony docket and was later thrown into drug treatment court, and I do say thrown. I didn't even know we had a drug treatment court at 36th District Court. When Judge Bill McConaughey became our leader, I went to Judge McConaughey and indicated that we needed to pull all of our specialty courts together so that we could make the best of all of our resources. And because he has such a heart for the people, he gave me the go-ahead to do just that. And so today, I serve as the executive presiding judge over our drug treatment court, veterans treatment court, mental health court. We also have a human trafficking docket. And so we are quite busy at 36th District Court. The work that we do at 36th District Court, I think, is so meaningful to the community because we actually watch lives transform in the court system. 95% of the people that come before me, they come with the idea that courts mean just punishment, jail, fines, being disrespected, not being counted, not being heard. And so in treatment court or in specialty courts, that is totally the opposite. They have the opportunity, there are still fines and costs, but they don't go to jail unless they need to, and sometimes they do. But we emphasize treatment, 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 treatment. We want to see people put their lives back together, their families back together, get on the path for careers and education and all of the wonderful things that we heard Mr. Jermaine talk about. And so I absolutely enjoy the work that I do at 36th District Court. I'm also excited about specialty courts because I grew up in a family where I had 3 brothers, actually 4 brothers, that battled drug addiction. I never knew that I would somehow be instrumental in putting back together lives of people who were impacted or who were subject to addiction. And so as a family member, having them in my family with no help available, no courts were listening, nobody was trying to get them help, nobody was caring about them putting their lives back together. This work that we do at 36th District Court, I absolutely love because I get the opportunity, firsthand experience, to be able to help people. And I understand that addiction is not a choice. Addiction is an illness. It is a disease. And so I have the opportunity to help people overcome that disease. And so I'm excited to be here today. Thank you for taking the time out to listen to us. Thank you.
Judge Holmes, thank you so much for your service. We're back to Judge Khalil. A few questions for you. What are the key components that make treatment courts effective in addressing the underlying issue of participants? And how do treatment courts contribute to reducing recidivism rates compared to traditional incarceration?
In treatment courts, and especially in veterans treatment courts, we are looking at the whole person. We're worried and concerned at the beginning about the status of the individual, whether they're employed, whether they have housing issues, whether they have food needs, whether they need employment. We even get to the point where sometimes we have to help them with transportation. And we work together as a team to make sure that our participants have all of the things that they need to get back to a normal life. Once we identify who is actually eligible to be in our program, if they have high risk and high needs, then we enroll them into the program, and we work closely with the Veterans Administration Hospital to develop a treatment plan for them. Now, I had been a judge for a long time before I started doing these treatment courts. We sent a lot of people to jail over time. We assessed a lot of fines and costs. We didn't make a lot of progress. We make progress in veterans treatment court and in the treatment court world because we reduce the reoffenders. We don't have offenders. We don't have recidivism when we have treatment court because we give people the tools that they need to emerge from the criminal justice system in a way that's going to make them a productive member of society. And why are we at the auto show? I think that's kind of a part of the discussion, because reducing recidivism makes the roads safer, because so many of the cases that we see involve impaired drivers. And so when you look at the startling statistics related to impaired driving and how to properly address that within the state of Michigan and in this country, we realize that truly treatment courts are the way to help people to get beyond reoffending.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Mr. Atkins, treatment courts often involve community resources and support. Could you elaborate on the role of community involvement in the success of these programs?
I sure will, and thank you very much for the question. But before I answer that question, I just want to say that Judge Khalil, it is really nice to sit next to you and listen to you speak about the benefits of the Veterans Treatment Court, because as a person who has benefited personally from a treatment court, I know that the words you're saying are really authentic. And anytime I get to sit on the stage with someone from the Supreme Court, it's an honor that I never thought that I would have. But Judge Holmes, every time I hear you speak, I can hear the passion in your voice, and it really just inspires me to become a better speaker. So thank you very much for that. But to answer the question, community resources and support. One of the most important aspects of my time in the treatment court was the mentorship that I was given. And I already explained some of the benefits that I received and how that reflects in my life. Now, as a member of the recovery community, as well as a peer recovery coach within the treatment courts in Wayne County, Michigan, what I'm allowed to do is pass that experience on to the people that I get to work with. Many of the people come into our treatment courts hopeless. They come into our treatment courts feeling disconnected from the community, and not only that, but they feel that there is no hope of them ever becoming part of the community again. They think they'll always be on the outside. But just from my experience, I can tell you that as a peer coach, I've been able to connect people to some resources you wouldn't believe. I've taken a guy, I won't say his name, but he wanted to be a military member, and he also wanted to work for the police department, but he had 2 DUIs. So his initial goal was to just go to jail, get it over with, because he never thought that he would be able to achieve his dreams, right? He had given up hope. But after a while of working with him and getting him to become more optimistic about the prospects of the benefits that he could receive from his treatment court, I was able to connect him to work with the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Outreach Department. And that got him rolling. He was like, oh man, I work for the Sheriff's Department, and I never thought that I would have the opportunity. He was a little too gung-ho, but he was working for the Sheriff's Department, and that got him really excited. And yesterday, he sent me a text message and a photo because he shipped off the boot camp yesterday, and he's now a member of the United States Armed Forces, something that he never thought that he would get to do. So when it comes to the resources and support that a treatment court can give, the judges, the probation officers, the defense attorneys, and even the prosecutors offer resources, right? They can offer guidance, but the therapists, the peer coaches, we are also the treatment side of the treatment court, and we offer resources that people never really received in courts before, and they help the participants in ways that you just never could imagine, right? And I'm glad Judge Khalil mentioned, why are we at the auto show? Because we are at the auto show because members of that community can be a part of the resources that we utilize as well. You all can support the treatment courts in ways that you may not even think of. Many of our participants are UAW members. They are employed at some of the big three, and some of them thought that they could never get a job working for Ford or GM, or I'm not even sure what Chrysler's called anymore, but for Chrysler, right? And they get those jobs. And some of those Some of those guys and girls are some of the most reliable employees I have ever seen in my life. As a business owner myself, I know just how challenging it can be to have reliable employees. But if members of the automobile industry continue to and more intentionally support the courts through offering employment to our participants, what I'm sure you'll find is that you'll find very reliable employees. People who are not only required to have a job, but want to have a job in society. They're drug tested for alcohol and other drugs on a regular basis. Where else can you say that at? And not only that, they are grateful and loyal because someone has given them another chance. So there are already a lot of support systems built into the treatment court system, but each and every last one of you all that can hear my voice can also become a part of that support system as well. And if you're not sure how, ask one of the members of the panel, and I'm sure we'll be able to help you out.
Amazing, right? Thank you for sharing. Appreciate it.
Can I interject here real quick?
Yes.
Because I like what you talked about the auto industry. And I think that one of the things that I'd like to point out is that when we first started our Veterans Court program, and even today, we have nice relationships with the big three. We have a very important gentleman who is a business owner in Redford Township, Carl Zimmerman, who is a big supporter of our program. He's got a Chevy dealership and a Buick dealership. And we won't mention the other one, but so that was the GM connection. Then there was the Ford Motor Company connection with our mentors, and the Greenfield Village partnership that we have for our veterans to be able to attend different programs at Greenfield Villages, which is connected to Ford Motor Company. And then we have Chrysler Corporation, who right at the start donated $5,000 to our nonprofit organization that supports our veterans, so that we could have education for our mentors. And so I think the big three in different ways has stepped up, and I know that we have contacts at Ford that have offered jobs to some of our employees or our participants. So we're very thankful for their involvement in our program and their partnership.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Judge Holmes, we're back to you. Treatment courts often involve collaboration among various stakeholders, judges, prosecutors, defense attorneys, treatment providers, and more. How does this multidisciplinary approach contribute to the success of treatment courts?
So collaboration between all of those partners is essential to the success of treatment courts. We have to get the mindset of we're all in this together. It can't just be the police out there arresting, because what we've seen is they arrest and they rearrest and they arrest again. That's not really helping someone. Even if they go through the court system, they're not always convicted. If it's a misdemeanor, they may spend up to 90 days in the Wayne County Jail, and then that means they're back on the street. That's not the answer. They may go to treatment on their own without being ordered by a judge, and they may go only once or twice and decide, I don't really like treatment. And so now they're back in this whole cycle of reoffending, still using, still caught up in their addiction. Until we all come together and sit at the table. And so now police, what's going on in the street? And now you're connected to the judiciary, where we have a program where we can help them. And now they're under a court order that they must go to treatment, and they must have sober living and all of these other different pieces that we bring together. Now you have an opportunity to, I don't like to say force people to do things, but we force them to fix their lives, and that's a good force, right? I'm gonna force you to fix your life, because now you're under a court order that says you must go to treatment, that says that you must not have interaction with the police other than good interaction through these specialty courts, that you must make sure that in your household it's drug-free. You must get up and go to work. You must go and learn parenting classes. You must go and learn how to balance a checkbook. You must get up and do the things that people do every day just in sober living. And so that is so important. We won't be able to connect those pieces unless we all come to the table together. And so that collaboration piece is very important. We have been fortunate at 36th District Court that we have had a police chief that has been totally in support of specialty courts, Chief James White. We have officers that are assigned to us. We have officers that work with us on the mental health side of it, so that we're not out here just spinning our wheels. They come to our staffing. They come to training. They're our eyes and ears in the street, instead of just arresting people and taking them to the DDC, and then they're back on the street before the officer can even make it back to his beat. We now have a connection with them where they reach out to specialty court. This person is in the pike, and they come directly to me, and we immediately connect them with services. It takes all of us working together. The Wayne County Jail, under the leadership of Raphael Washington, where they work with us to make sure if a person is in jail and they are someone that's slated to come to specialty court, we start those services immediately in the jail. That only happens because we're all working together. And so it's so important, that collaborative effort with all of our stakeholders coming together, coming to the table, and making sure that we come up with a holistic approach to address the needs of that individual. That's the only way that we can be successful. When we were all working in a vacuum, we were hitting and missing. That's just what was happening. Everybody had a little pot of resources over here. Everybody had a little pot of resources over there. When we brought everybody together, now we put all of our resources in one place, and now we're all working together. We know what's going on. We know where to send people depending on their issues and their needs and their family dynamics. And maybe they have some needs that, I don't know about, but the treatment provider knows about, and the treatment provider can bring that resource to the table and connect them to make sure that that person is getting everything that they need in order to be successful with respect to beating their addiction. And so the collaboration is awesome. That goes also for employment. We work with several agencies that directly employ our individuals. Why? Because they can test clean. They're not going to be, and clean is not the proper word, but they can test negative. But because they're in our program. And so they're going to show up to work because they have a court order to show up to work. And they are going to give it their best shot because they know they have to come back and see me. And they don't want to see me if they have not been going to work and doing what they're supposed to do. And so that collaboration is really, really important.
Thank you so much, Judge Holmes. Judge Khalil, a couple more questions for you. How do participants get selected for the treatment programs? And what criteria are used to determine their eligibility? What factors are taken into consideration when deciding whether an individual is suitable for a treatment court program instead of a traditional legal proceeding?
Treatment courts follow the 10 key components for treatment courts that were established on a national level once we started to realize that the way we were doing business 30-some years ago and 40-some years ago and 50-some years ago wasn't working. So they've established a protocol for how we determine eligibility. And we look for people who are considered high risk and high need. Those assessments that determine risk and need are done or completed by our probation officers. And once we identify people who are at that level of need, then we offer them an opportunity to get into our programs. There's a risk involved in encouraging people who are low risk and low need to be in a treatment court because they may not flourish the way that somebody who has real need would. The other thing that we've done in our community, and I think that it's been done to assist everyone in Southeast Michigan, is that our court has led on training for law enforcement agents and for probation officers throughout this area so that they can understand when they're dealing with a veteran. Veterans do not come into the criminal justice system waving a flag that says, "I'm a veteran, help me." They kind of want to hide that because there's a little bit of shame associated with getting in trouble, having a substance abuse problem, maybe having a moral injury that you come back with from war. And so we've trained law enforcement over many sessions of training and over a few years to understand when they're dealing with a veteran that there are certain things to look for to identify those veterans, and also that there is a certain way to approach the situation that may be different than in an ordinary situation with just a random individual. Once those veterans are identified into the program or identified to the court, we then communicate with a Veterans Justice Outreach Coordinator through the Veterans Administration hospitals in the area. We're fortunate in this area to have two VA hospitals that are equidistant to our community. The Detroit VA Hospital offers services to many of our veterans, as does the Ann Arbor Veterans Administration Hospital. So that's how we get them into the program. And then once they're in the program, I will tell you with most sincerely that sometimes the ones that have the most difficulties, the highest needs people, the ones that want to fight and not participate, not really do what we want them to do, sometimes are the ones that have the best success. I can actually go year by year and tell you that in certain circumstances, we were just so frustrated as a treatment court team. We would meet and talk about the difficulties that this person was giving us and how they just weren't getting it and they weren't making progress the way we hoped that they would. And through a concerted effort with everyone participating, all hands on deck, we work with those individuals, and those individuals have been the shining stars of our programs. They come out on the other end, lives saved, and we know that. And that's a very rewarding experience. Just on another topic, I just want to say that a long time ago, somebody from the Michigan Supreme Court interviewed me, and they said, if you had to describe your position as a treatment court judge in one word, how would you describe it? What would you say? What would that word be? And I said, inspired. Because when we work with the traditional court system and with the traditional clientele that we see, we don't necessarily have the opportunity to be inspired the way that we are when we deal with people on a regular basis who see us often, who become like family to us, and we see their progress and we admire them for the challenges that they've overcome, and we see them through the program that gives them what they need, the tools that they need to live a successful life. And so those things are inspiring to me, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to serve in this capacity.
Thank you so much. I feel inspired. I don't know about you all. Mr. Atkins, how do treatment courts foster a sense of accountability and responsibility in participants towards both their personal recovery and the community?
I think that is a really in-depth question. And this is the first time I saw that question, so if I stumble over the answer a little bit, please forgive me, right? However, in Taylor, Michigan, Judge Shackelford, she has a treatment court that I work in, and she has a community garden. And a lot of times when she passes out, what do you call it, the punishment or sanctions, that is the politically correct word, excuse me. It feels like punishment sometimes, but it's really just a sanction. But she gives out sanctions to go work in the community garden. And initially, everyone is very unhappy about receiving that sanction. But then they get to the garden, they find a little spot that they like over time, and then next thing you know, they take accountability for particular plants or a particular area. And I found that some participants go down to the community garden on their time off and check on their plants. And I know that doesn't sound like a big deal, but a lot of times the participants in treatment courts are used to being the scourge of the community. They're used to being the human litter of the community, right? But now they've turned their path around and they have found a way to clean up the community, to provide nutrition for the community in a sense, right? If it's only through a garden, but it seems like a garden, but it's really like a change in mind state that a lot of people really experience in the treatment court. They begin to become givers and not just takers. I've experienced it myself, but it's not done through just a haphazard fashion. It is very intentional. It starts off with a lot of apprehension. It starts off with a lot of no, I don't need that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be a part of this court. but by the time they finish the court, they find themselves to look forward to attending peer group. They look forward to seeing their therapist. They build a bond and a relationship with the people they work with. I found people who actually like their probation officers. I found people who
Do they like their judges?
Yes, they do. They build bonds with their judges. Like you were speaking earlier, Judge Khalil, about that inspiration the judges receive, but I don't think you guys understand the inspiration that a participant receives when they get to talk to a judge outside of the courtroom. That's a big deal. The judge knows my name and said hi to me in Kroger, and I spoke to them and introduced them to my child. So the inspiration is there, the accountability is built in, and the responsibility comes over time when a person is thrust back into their community and made to feel a part of it. The responsibility naturally comes. It's like becoming a parent. When you see your child and you just love them, you know what to do. And through our experiences in treatment courts, we are changed from people that are outcasts to people that are given a community and given some responsibility for it. And over time, we just know what to do. And hopefully that answers the question. But that's all I got if it doesn't.
I think you did a beautiful job answering that question. Thank you so much. Judge Holmes, treatment courts began with a focus on substance abuse issues but have expanded to include mental health and other concerns. How do you see the landscape of treatment courts evolving in the future?
That is an excellent question about the involvement. So this is where I get an opportunity. I tell people all the time, this is my ideal opportunity to say what I want treatment courts to look like. First of all, I want people to get involved, the community, get involved. If you are sitting here today or you can hear my voice, get involved. There is something for everybody to do. We have great organizations such as the Michigan Association of Treatment Court Professionals that are there that provide our training and a plethora of services with respect to specialty courts. Find a way to get involved. We don't turn down any help, and we don't turn down any hands. We want all hands on deck, so get involved. In an ideal world, I'd like to see our specialty courts where individuals can come into our courts and not incur any expenses, because they do have to pay costs and things of that nature. And we have been fortunate to receive grants in order to cover testing and some other things that participants need. But there are so many more needs. And so in a perfect world, I'd like to see more funding given to specialty courts. In addition, there are other issues that need to be addressed. We have started a human trafficking docket at 36th District Court. That was birthed out of drug treatment court because we had women who were in the sex industry who they could not receive the same type of treatment, the same type of court session that a person in drug treatment court that was just battling drug addiction received. And it sounds like, wow, just drug addiction? That's right. When a person is in the sex industry or they have been human trafficked, that is a whole different segment or a whole different category of people. And so I'd like to see us expand to address some of these specific needs that we see throughout the community, throughout the state of Michigan. What may be happening in my community may not be happening in your community. But I would love to see treatment courts address the issues that are happening in your community. And so I see everybody getting on board, not just the stakeholders, police, and all of the other individuals that we've talked about, but just the everyday, the car dealerships, the grocery stores, the ecumenical community. Everybody should be getting involved, because until we all come together and work on this issue, we're never going to make the leeway that we could. We're making great strides right now, don't get me wrong, but there are so many other strides and greater strides that we can make if everybody gets involved. Everybody. Addiction touches everybody. It doesn't matter if you live in the inner city, urban, if you live in the suburbs, it doesn't matter. Addiction touches everybody. We service people from from being CEOs, professors from Harvard University, to doctors and lawyers. They have come through our program. So we can't say that the problem is just in Detroit, or it's just in an urban area, or it's just across the street. It's everywhere. And because it exists everywhere, we all have to get involved. If you don't know what your part is, ask one of us. We will gladly assign you something to do, find a way for you to be able to contribute to specialty courts, because we expect and plan to just get better and better and better. And so that's how I envision specialty courts in the future. Thank you.
And that was your call to action. So get involved with the drug treatment courts. Ask about it. Please contribute however you're able to. Judge Holmes, Judge Khalil, Mr. Atkins, thank you so much for your participation. Thank you to the Detroit Auto Show, Global Mobility Forum. And this is the treatment court panel. We appreciate you taking the time to listen.
If I could.
Uh-oh. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
And I'm going to save a treat for you when you come to your first graduation in the Redford District Court, Justice Bolden.
Yes.
But at this time, I think we have two very special people sitting to my right. And I know that Jamaine
All right. Yeah.
has done a lot to help a lot of people. And you've taken steps to improve your life. And I'm very proud to be associated with you and serve with you on the board of directors for the treatment court professionals. So with that, I'd like to award you a challenge coin from our court.
Oh, wow.
It's a hero coin. And I can't let the day go by without showing it off a little bit. Hero to me stands for honor, encouragement, respect, and outreach. And I designed the coin to give to the graduates from our program, and also for those civilians who have done special things to help our program. And so I would like to, at this time, award you a 17th District Veterans Treatment Court Challenge coin. Judge Holmes, you have your hands very full. You serve in so many roles in the state and in this country, and you're a role model to many people, and we appreciate all that you do. She sits on the National Association of Treatment Court Professionals, NADCP, Drug Court Professionals board. She sits on the Treatment Court Board for Michigan, and she does all that she does to train judges. She just came from a judicial education training in Lansing, and she got here just in the nick of time for this panel. So we developed a special coin for people like you. It's called Going the Extra Mile coin. And so I'm presenting that to you today, thanking you for your service. A lot of people say that these treatment courts, why do we do this? Is this really necessary? Why are you giving people a break? It's not that at all. These programs promote public safety. They promote safer streets, safer roads. They decrease recidivism for drunk and impaired driving cases. There are over 2 million plus people in this country that have 3 or more drunk driving cases on their driving record. It's not acceptable. It's putting all of us at risk. And so when we work on these teams to address these issues, we're making Michigan and the country a safer place.
Well, Judge Khalil, thank you for that lovely presentation. Well deserved. Well deserved. And thank you to the Michigan Association of Treatment Court Professionals as well. Again, thank you, Detroit Auto Show. Any other presentations? I just want to make sure I don't cut anybody off. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you enjoy your afternoon.